Last but not least, I want to talk about Brad Stevens being anointed as a good head coach a little bit too early on, but yet still getting a promotion with Danny Ainge announcing his retirement. And also, we're going to talk about Danny Ainge. What is he going to be remembered for? As he played it safe for most of his 18 years in the Boston Celtics front office. And without his Hall of Fame teammate Kevin McHale bailing him out with that Kevin Garnett trade in 2007, what exactly would he be remembered for? As first, I'm going to start off with Mr. Plays Safe Danny Ainge. As for most of his career in Boston, especially in the front office role, he played it a bit too safe, and he didn't really leave a lot of breathing room for Brad Stevens, as Brad could not manage all the personalities he got, particularly from all the young draft picks that Boston was hoarding. Now, Danny Ainge's big break came in 2007 after the Boston Celtics finished with one of the worst records in the league. He kind of bailed them out with that Kevin Garnett trade, in which the T-Wolves pretty much got nothing back for. They just got a bunch of names: Ryan Gomes, Gerald Green, Sebastian Telfair, Theo Ratliff, Al Jefferson, which Al Jefferson is probably their best piece, but he didn't even last that long on that team. And eventually, they traded 2 first-round picks also, which were Johnny Flynn and Wayne Ellington. And pretty much the Celtics were able to get Garnett, and they were able to also get Ray Allen in a separate deal, and they were able to win the championship next year. So this is pretty much the highlight of Danny Ainge's career. And once again, Danny Ainge definitely had a connection to Kevin McHale, as they both won championships in Boston in their playing days. And best believe Garnett did not want to sign an extension with Boston, but eventually he was convinced to do so. But I'm surprised a lot more people don't question this trade, because Kevin McHale had a history of doing shady deals while he was a general manager down in Minnesota. In 1999, he was able to pry away the 1995 first overall draft pick Joe Smith from the Golden State Warriors. He was able to get him away from there and sign him to a 1-year deal for $1.7 million. Now, the league was questioning how the hell was he able to get this deal, because Joe Smith had rejected the Warriors' $80 million extension just to sign with Kevin McHale for 1 year for $1.7 million. And it come to find out that they did an under the deal table, in which the league ended up taking away Minnesota's 2001, 2002, and 2004's draft picks. So at the end of the day, the Minnesota Timberwolves gave away Kevin Garnett, which is a Ferrari, for a bunch of sedans, and 2 draft picks that ended up being 2 more sedans, which nobody questioned at all. But for Danny Ainge, this was a blessing in disguise, and he was able to win a ring in 2008 with KG, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen. After that, Danny Ainge was able to strike lightning twice, because he was able to get Kyrie Irving from the Cleveland Cavaliers in 2017, and all he had to do was give up a 2nd round pick and some cash and Isaiah Thomas, which is a player he did not want to re-sign anyway. That was a blessing in disguise, which he couldn't take advantage of anyway, because Gordon Hayward ended up getting hurt. Kyrie ended up leaving the team for nothing. They did not even go after AD. They did not go after Kawhi Leonard, Jimmy Butler, and Paul George. Danny Ainge played it a little bit too safe. Even guys like Terry Rozier in the earlier years, I believe around 2016, he'd even trade him off to get some sort of asset for him. Same thing for Kyrie, same thing for Gordon Hayward. He didn't put the pressure for these guys to make a decision, and they were allowed to walk off with no asset being returned back to them. And we also got to look at the Al Horford move. That ended up not working out for the Celtics, and they had to sacrifice a draft pick in order to get rid of him. At the end of the day, between 2017 through 2019, the Celtics had a nice combination of young assets and draft picks to make a move to go after someone, but Danny Ainge played it a little bit too safe and had too many young players on this team, which the personalities was clashing with veteran players. And with the Gordon Hayward situation, him being injured and getting paid so much money, they didn't understand why he played so many minutes in some of these lineups. So all these things were going on at once, and he kind of left it for Brad Stevens to kind of manage the personalities, which none of this ended up working out. And when you combine this with the league watching Isaiah Thomas play hurt, and his sister going through that car crash, and him still showing up for the Celtics, but yet getting screwed over when it came time for him to get paid. It didn't really go over too well with other players throughout the league as far as Boston being a destination, especially due to the fact that Kawhi Leonard did not want to sign an extension, and especially Anthony Davis. Boston had a nice package for him, but he didn't want to go there. And in my personal opinion, I believe the Isaiah Thomas situation left a huge disdain in a lot of players' mouths throughout the league for what Danny Ainge did. So not only were the Celtics not a destination while Ainge was there, but they could not take advantage of LeBron leaving the conference. And then the final nail in the coffin is the Kemba Walker situation not working out. They might have played him when he was still injured instead of waiting for him to fully recover, because they felt pressured, especially last year in the bubble, to have an opportunity to chase that championship. The only difference with that Kemba Walker versus the Isaiah Thomas situation is that Kemba Walker is already locked in and he's going to get his money regardless. So a lot of the mismanagement of the roster and assets left Brad Stevens in an odd predicament, because he got anointed as a good head coach due to the fact that the Celtics got far without Kyrie in 2018. But in 2019, he couldn't quite manage the personalities of so many young guys trying to figure out what they could do and continue their success when the pressure was on for them to get to the same point that they got the year before. So they were kind of having a conflict with Kyrie on who's the better player or who's the alpha in the situation. It seemed like nobody wanted to follow Kyrie, and Kyrie probably wanted more polished guys. So Danny Ainge should have pulled the trigger, perhaps packaged Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum in a deal to get a more polished player. He had the assets and the picks at the time. I believe he even had the Memphis Grizzlies draft pick. But Brad Stevens definitely got the anointment of being a good head coach a little bit too early, because the Al Horford situation was mismanaged by him and Danny Ainge. And the writing on the wall was Kyrie was not going to stay there. It was obvious that he didn't really fit in with that team and that these guys were bumping heads. So part of a coach's job is also to manage the personnel. And as 2019 and 2020 has come around, we've seen the results of the Celtics getting bounced out in the first round, going to the game 7 with the Raptors last season in the bubble, and then eventually getting knocked out by the Heat when they were actually predicted to be the favorites. And then this season, of course, they've underperformed, especially the situation with Kemba Walker. It's not really been a good fit. But yeah, even though Brad Stevens haven't quite fully proven himself yet as being that good coach that can lead the team deep into the playoffs, into the finals, he's quickly taken out of that role, and now he's supposed to manage personnel, which was something he wasn't even initially good at as being the head coach of the Celtics, particularly when Kyrie was there with all those personalities bumping heads with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. But now he's going to have to manage personnel from an executive role. And I'm wondering how that's going to play out, because he didn't really even prove himself as a head coach. So this is a funny and unique area that Boston is in. Brad Stevens didn't really even get to prove himself as coach, but maybe he has a lot more imagination when it comes to putting a team together than Danny Ainge does. Because once again, Danny Ainge played it a little bit too safe. Year after year, there was way too many opportunities to take a chance on possibly getting Kawhi, Jimmy Butler, Paul George. The list goes on, and yet Danny Ainge didn't really put anything into work. There was more rumors around what the Boston Celtics might do versus us hearing them actually making a push to actually get something done. Shit, you can make the argument they should have made moves to even go after Kyle Lowry, seeing that this Kemba Walker situation wasn't going to work out. It is what it is. It's not like the Celtics would ever say we're firing our Hall of Fame legend Danny Ainge. They pretty much probably came to an agreement and parted ways. That's, in my personal opinion, what happened. But that Kemba Walker situation was pretty much the straw that broke the camel's back. And as we've seen Brad Stevens make his first move in his front office role by getting rid of Kemba Walker, it seems like the Boston Celtics are in a rebuilding mode, and they might not even know it. So it is what it is. Until next time, you guys stay safe. Peace.